Here we go.
Look at us. It's the One and Done Show together again after a long hiatus. I'm Hardwood Rob. Marcus Fuller is here. Ryan James is here. How you been, guys? You ready to talk basketball? Look at us. Look at us
We don't
talking
have a mic though.
basketball.
We don't have a mic. Can you share it or what?
Yeah, here. Hold on.
Oh, my audio's probably
There you
messed
go.
up here.
It's gonna sound great. This is the audio that people are used to in the pandemic era. People are used to hearing what it sounds like in somebody's bedroom or in their closet.
I don't know. I've done a lot of Zooms like this though, like way too close, or you can see like my nose hairs, and I don't even know it until like I actually record it and look at it afterward. I'm like, seriously,
And you're
couldn't,
like, oh,
couldn't the guy I was talking to tell me that he could like see my gray hairs in my beard, all of them? But
You got some gray hairs in that beard?
I do. You see,
Oh, you
look
do.
close enough.
dude, this is the gray hair era. This is
I know
all
Daniel Turu called me Mr. Fuller for the first time. I said, what's going on with that?
Well, we're getting old. Look, I got my COVID beard. I'm gonna finish the year since I can't go anywhere with a beard like this. But hey,
It looks
happy
good on you.
Happy
Hey,
Thanksgiving. Happy
Shout out to
Thanksgiving.
the teachers who are going to have to do Zoom calls the rest
Thank
of it.
you. We were doing all like we just started doing distance learning. Oh, the last week and a half. It's not fun, but we're really for special ed. But anyway, dude, we always did the Turkey Day run all the time. We can't do it this year, so all you people that joined us for the Turkey Day run, that was so much fun. That's why I'm wearing my turkey hat in honor of the Turkey Day run.
I can't imagine running for fun.
You know what was fun was watching the Gopher draft drought finally end. 16 years. What were you doing 16 years? Well, summertime, because the draft is usually in the summer. 16 years, 2004. June.
To be honest with you, that was in like my basketball hiatus mode. Seriously, I like for 2 years I went with this beard, moved up north with a gal, and was like riding snowmobiles and four-wheelers. It was like, sports is stupid.
Doing 360s.
I don't even know who you are right now.
I know. And then after my whole life being sports, later that summer or later that year, Gopher Illustrated got started because one of my first articles was about Chris Humphries getting drafted.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Nice.
Wow. That's amazing.
So my first story I ever wrote about a player was Jonathan Williams when he was at a prep school, St. Cloud John Williams, who is now back here helping other players. You know, and when you talk about John Williams helping players, Jarvis O'Mercer he coached, Booth Gosh he coached, Trayton Thompson was his main coach. He coached all those guys during AAU. So there you go.
2004. That was your first article. 2004.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of. Sure, there's a lot of Gopher fans hoping that Daniel Turu getting drafted and Amir Coffey being an NBA. How about them joining the same team? By the way, I mean, it couldn't have happened any better. I mean, you don't have to. Well, a Clippers jersey. I don't know. I don't have Coffey's Clippers jersey just yet. I need to get that for myself. But
dude, by the time you get it, one of them will be like traded.
Don't say that. Don't jinx them. We need him to win a championship with the Clippers, and we'll rub it in Rob's face.
Never ever gonna happen. Never in a million years.
The Lakers are like bolstering their bench. Like what they just added yesterday is kind of scary because Schroeder and Harrell, two very, very good players. Like that's coming off their bench now. NBA is gonna be fun, man. The NBA was so fun this fall. Like I enjoyed those games in the bubble, and I'm looking forward to watching them this winter. The NBA, I mean, part of it is the talent. Part of it is part of the reason NBA is so much in something I enjoy now is because basketball at every single level is basically using the same type of offense. So I mean, college basketball, the NBA became more about isolation while college basketball was still running so many systems. With everybody in NBA running ball screen motion type stuff these days, the NBA is doing it too. Like you want to watch basketball,
I don't know.
Why not watch the best?
I don't know. I mean, I think that just watching the draft in November, it was obviously bizarre, and seeing virtual was even more bizarre. But at the same time, knowing that like we go from the draft and watching Daniel and obviously Amir team up to having college basketball start next week, it's pretty surreal, right? I mean, like
it's super strange.
Usually you get the NBA draft and then there's a huge hiatus of basketball, right? Like you wait for the summer league and guys don't even show up for the summer league, and then you got to wait for training camp. I mean, college football and the NFL starting is awesome in the fall, but it's like you wait so long for basketball. I mean, Ryan, I know you're working super hard during the summer with AAU, but like just
The
as
rest
far
of
as it
us.
on TV, you don't get it.
Yeah. Hey, you're right. And like for me, it's year round. Now I usually take the fall off. They did a lot. There's way more fall basketball this year than there ever has been. People are just coming up with stuff to put on TV, and to have for kids to leagues all the way from like fall leagues with high schools to fall leagues with AAU to the mini Haha Academy going out and playing, and Chet Holmgren putting on one of the most memorable high school performances you'll ever see ever again. Like there's been a lot of fall ball, but you're right. Like we haven't had that consistent stream yet. And I'll tell you what, my question, Marcus, I have a question for you in a second. But like, and this is where the question stems from. So we're going, I think it was 2 nights ago, we were going through the YouTube TV scroll, and it says Maui Invitational. I'm like, oh, or did somebody actually go out there? Or they're actually playing some games, or maybe it's even last year. I'll watch last year. Let's go. So I turned on, and it was Rocket League Maui Invitational. I was so mad. I'm like, come on, Rocket League Maui Invitational, get a different name. So anyway, my question to you, yeah, seriously, some stupid cars on video games or on TV instead of what I was hoping for. What a letdown. I should have known though when it was on like ESPN 7 that it wasn't something. Anyway, Marcus, when do we get to watch our first college basketball game next week?
I just did that on purpose because that's like the Zoom, that's the Zoom era where you're trying to talk and you're on mute.
Yeah.
I just had to do that so see what it looked like. But I mean, we obviously start on Wednesday.
Well, how
And
about for all college basketball?
yeah, I
Wednesday,
mean,
the first
officially
night?
starts Wednesday, but the Thanksgiving weekend is when we start to get some pretty good games, and really early December, that's when we get like the Kansases and the Dukes and the Michigan States playing each other. We got Gonzaga with an unbelievable schedule. I mean, they start off with Kansas on Thanksgiving Day. They play Kansas. Jalen Suggs. I mean, there's no bigger stage, right, than playing a blue blood in your first game.
That's
I mean,
fantastic.
I don't.
And we're all like, not many people are going anywhere, so we're gonna need some extra sports on Thanksgiving.
No, we are
And
not.
have you seen the NFL games on Thursday? The night game is fantastic. The day games, like, yeah, we're gonna be. I don't know about you guys, like, I think we're catering buka to our house, so I'm gonna have like a buka sleeping on the couch, so I won't be able to see the Lions and the Texans and the Cowboys and the. God, it's
Okay.
just terrible the games that are in the afternoon for the NFL. So we're gonna need that college basketball.
That Quattro al Forno with the
Yeah, I mean, just look at it, guys.
baked pasta.
We've got obviously not quarantined yet, shutdowns yet, but Thanksgiving. I mean, how many of your family members are going to get together? They're trying to, yeah. I mean, they're trying to keep us apart, but I mean, I'm getting together with family, and we're going to have about 9, so it's good, But
Well, I have 6 that live here anyway. There's 6 of us, so we're already at a big Thanksgiving dinner. Just who's here normally. But yeah, like my parents don't live here. My wife's parents don't want to stay quarantined. Like we always get together with her side of the family. Everybody wants to stay. Like and I think that's a common theme. So it is what it is. Give us some college basketball.
I don't know. Did you see the draft though? Like some families were gathering, and then others had like their whole entourage plus like all the hangers on. They had like 30 people in there, no masks. I'm thinking, how many people out of those celebrations are going to get COVID,
Dude,
or maybe like even already have it?
Tyrell Terry got tackled by his entire dormitory when he got, wherever they were. No, it's
I
just
mean,
a lot of kids.
It's weird though. Like, we don't get this normally, right? They're usually there. I mean, the first round picks anyway. They're there. They're in the green room. If they, like obviously Aturu didn't expect to get picked in the second round. Some guys are in the green room and they're there sitting there forever, wait for their name to get called. And it's kind of a bummer, but like this one from number 1 pick all the way down, like you get to see the emotion with their families, like sometimes in their homes, like it was a different, but like I got into the emotion. I mean, when Obi Toppin got picked by the Knicks, like I was a big Obi Toppin fan. I didn't like him going to the Knicks, but at the same time, man, his story and the way he was responding emotionally, like I got grabbed into that,
I do wish they would stop asking about every kid's like worst nightmare or worst experience, their all of their family tragedies as they get drafted. Like, hey, we're at a high point in your life. Let's talk about the lowest point of your life.
I know, seriously.
I could do with a couple of them because some of them are good stories, but if like 30, like 20 of them does get kind of depressing.
Like everybody knows it's hard to get to the NBA. You know what I mean? We don't need to really belabor that point.
I do like the tearjerker story though. I'm an emotional guy. I love those things. But yes, a lot of them is a lot.
I mean, Anthony Edwards, sitting there with his grandmother and his mom's picture right there. I mean, like, seriously.
Yeah. Man, heavy.
I couldn't even make it past the first pick without.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It was like they punch you in the face right away. And
I mean, by the time I finished wiping my snot and all that kind of stuff, they already had the third pick with Ball. I'm like, what happened to Wiseman, man?
No doubt.
Hey, how quiet was LeVar Ball? Was that right? I already forgot his name.
LeVar. You already forgot.
LeVar.
Did you call him Lamar?
I don't know. I can't even remember his name. Like, that's how far he's kind of faded. He's so quiet. Like I was like, good for you, man. Shut your mouth and just sit there.
Well, why do you think his son got picked so high?
Because he shut his mouth and just sat.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we get too far from it, because of the Laker moves picking up Harrell, that's probably going to clear some minutes for Oturu off the Clipper bench, right? Like that's probably a really good move for him.
It kind of depends. Like JaMychal Green, you got to see where he resigns.
Morris, they resigned Morris.
What's that?
They resigned Morris too.
Yeah, and they resigned Patrick Patterson too. It could. I hope so.
But the good thing about the Clippers is, even Doc Rivers is gone, but I think Ty Lue, who took over, he was an assistant coach. And he embraced that culture where they're gonna like develop these guys. Like Amir didn't start off on the main roster; he was in the G League, and they gave him time to kind of get ready, to help them at the end of the year. I hope they don't throw Daniel in there too soon and just let him grow and mature, because he's 21 years old, but at the same time, you saw the jump that he made from his freshman year to sophomore year. And obviously he's going to make another jump again. I feel like, he's going to learn a lot from the veterans on that team, just like Amir did. Patrick Beverly took him under his wing. There's a lot of guys that help Amir get to the point where I feel like next year Amir is going to be able to help them. I like to see him in the playoffs. I was like, get Amir in there, like a couple times in the playoffs. But I think he's ready. And then I think, by the end of the year, Daniel's going to be ready to help them too. I don't think they need to throw him in the mix right away, is my opinion. And like I said,
it's a good situation though.
Yeah,
right. It looks like a good situation. I feel like all the Minnesota guys landed in spots where I'm really excited for them. You know what I mean? Like I'm excited. I'm excited for Zeke went to Denver, right?
Right.
Well, I think Zeke hits a great spot because instantly they just lost their power forward. Like, because the Pistons gave Jelani Grant $20 million a year. So, all right, so you step right in. He's going to have a chance, right? I mean, he's a 20-some pick. They're going to expect him to play. The NBA these days is not the NBA of 5 years ago. Like, if it's a 17-man roster these days, and they use all 17 during the year. Like, that, dude, that's why I think there should be 3 rounds to the draft now, because so many guys are still on rosters. You might as well draft another round because there's so many guys on rosters. They use so many players. I think Zeke's probably is going to be in the rotation early because they do need help up there. And I think Daniel Oturu is going to be playing somewhat earlier because they're going to need help. And there's injuries. There's this year with COVID and injuries. Yes, people are going to be coming up and down like crazy. They're going to need all of them.
Yeah, don't they have Bol up there too, Denver?
They do, but I mean, he's barely ever played before.
And he's a guard.
No, but I mean I think it proves
a guard.
It proves that they, that they have. They're not gonna. I think they're gonna spend time trying to develop these guys. Like I said, I think more and more now, you're seeing even first round picks, like lottery picks. I mean, not get thrown in the fire right away when they go to better teams. I think that it's a different situation with the Warriors. I mean, they're gonna, Wiseman's their guy, but right after the top 3. I feel like a lot of those guys are projects and raw. Like Patrick Williams went 4th. and he didn't even start on his college team.
I mean, he's got talent, but that was after watching. Okay, we spent a lot of downtime in our houses since March. I went through and watched just a lot of college basketball, but I did it by watching who the NBA draft.net said on there. So I'd go, okay, I'll go watch that guy play. I watched Patrick Williams. You see the ability, but I was like, never did I think fourth. I think that blows me away. That blows me away. Oh, yeah. Slamming around my turkey over here. My bad.
Mm-mm.
I think Daniel, Jay Billis started talking about him, as one of the best available. I think right around maybe the 11th pick or something like that. And just some of the picks, mostly later in the rounds or first round, I was shocked. Azubuike going to Utah, I think in the first round. I mean, this is a throwback back to the basket, center who can't shoot. I mean, the dude, if you put him at the free throw line, I think there was one time last year where he might have had a streak of 40 straight misses at the free throw line. And then of course, that's why I brought this jersey. That's not the Shaq jersey, right?
He missed 40 straight free throws.
Hey, Shaq made him win a count. Shaq made him win a count.
Because this is my son's jersey. He said, Dad, what about Shaq? Shaq couldn't hit free throws. I'm like, this dude's not Shaq. Plus, that was a different era.
40 straight free throws. You got to be shooting backwards.
But it's a different era. I mean, if you look at the first round, how many, prototypical big men? Actually, look at the whole draft. How many back to the basket big men that can't step out and either guard the pick and roll or shoot got drafted? Period.
Not tons. And I've had this argument with people about James Wiseman. They're like, he's not a back to the back. Yes, he is. James Wiseman does a lot very good with his back to the basket. Now, that doesn't mean he's Wilt Chamberlain and everything he does is a shoulder turn crushing somebody towards the rim. But at the same time, he does a lot with his back to the basket. It's okay. This is a kind of a pet peeve of mine. It's okay to call guys centers. That doesn't limit them to being a big lumberman guy. You could still go out and shoot. You can still go out and move off the ball screen and fade to the wing. You can still face up and shoot a 15-footer. You can still face up, put the ball down. But you also are a big man who has to guard the other team's five. That's a center. And James Wiseman plays with his back to the basket. He's a center. And it's okay.
He can face up.
What's that?
He can face up. I think
he can, but he can. And a lot of times that starts with his back to the basket. He turns, makes contact, and then falls away or fades a bit and gets a shoulder square and shoots. That's okay. You can be called a center. It's okay.
Yeah. I love centers.
What's Daniel's ceiling? You think?
For me, everything about Daniel depends on what he's like defensively. I think Daniel is going to bring the energy and be skilled enough to be in the NBA for a good long time. And when I say good long time, my mindset turns to 8-9 years. I mean, that's a good NBA career. That's a very good NBA career. Now, the whole maybe it would be even more, but everything to me depends on what he can do defensively. When his man is setting a ball screen and he's got to move defensively, how does he react? How consistent is he in that position? How does he move his feet? How is he doing that right away when he gets in versus how long, with the sixth man he's been in? That's everything for me when it comes to Daniel, is how he is defensively. Because if he can handle that and do it well, he's in a great spot. But I mean, when you looked at people, it's tough when you look at NBA draft analysts, because some of them are very good. Some of them put the time in. Some of them are absolute dog trash. So, you don't know who you should be looking at. But the ones that I thought that you could count on, they're because everything's a knock. Even if you talk LeBron James, somebody's going to say something negative about LeBron's game. Everybody's got a knock on the basketball court. It is what it is. You're going to have it. So what was Daniel's? They worried about him defensively. Defensively, how can he hold up? Because if you look at his tape, and you can, some people are going to argue, well, he was on the floor for 36 minutes and he's a big guy. Maybe he was tired when he was playing some of that D. And maybe you're right. But his defensive consistency is what worried people. So, and how important that is in the NBA. And he has to be able to do that. And if he can do that, his career is going to be elongated because he's going to be able to shoot. I trust a ton that he's going to be able to square.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up because in workouts, and obviously you're going to show workouts where you hit most of your shots, but, virtually, the NBA teams a lot of times weren't there. But I think that the first thing that I saw last year was the fact that Patino gave confidence in him to step out and shoot. Because, you know, in the past, as we know, RJ and even Rob watching the Gophers, like a lot of their big guys, either they could not shoot or just, you know, Patino didn't really trust them to, and then didn't allow them to shoot very much. And so, you know, I think he allowed Daniel to shoot threes, you know, and even miss them. I mean, like if he was missing a couple threes in the game, he didn't say, Daniel, stop shooting. You know, he kept shooting, and eventually, you know, in some games he would hit two, he would hit a couple. You know, so he continued to develop that in the off season. And I mean, that's the number one thing with bigs now is they have to stretch the floor. But at the same time, for me, offensively, I think how he can improve. One of the reasons I think teams are down on him, and I hope that, you know, that he shows that he can do it is passing, you know, passing ability. I think, you know, when he's in the post and he's got a deep post, you know, position, and can he pass out of that double team? You know, can he make good decisions? You know, sometimes obviously in late in games, you know, he struggled a little bit with that. Other times, you know, he was great finding shooters, you know, on the wing. So I think that Daniel's got the potential to be a starter down the road. You know, it's not going to be right away. I think Zeke has a chance as well. You know, Trey, who got picked up by the Spurs. I mean, come on now, like
Great situation.
Yeah.
So cool. So
You
cool.
know, I'm glad Pop is still there because, you know, there's talk in the last couple of years if he was going to retire, because then once he retires, you never know where that franchise is going to go without all their key pieces. You know, Duncan's gone, all the other guys are gone, but you know, who are we forgetting? Oh yeah, Tyrell with Dallas. I mean, you know, Luca. I think they had a good draft. You know, I mean, it just, to me, all these Minnesotans, like you said, Rob, are in good spots where I think that these teams are going to invest in their future. And you know what? Like, I was on a radio show the other day, and they were talking about, man, you know, these guys, they probably made the wrong decision by coming out because most of them are second round picks. I don't agree with that. Like, I think that getting picked, period, in this day and age is huge. And also, second round picks, you know, I mean, if you get to the right spot, like we say these guys got to the right franchise and the team invests in you, you know, that's great. But even in this day and age, going undrafted is not the worst thing in the world, because you saw
there's 30 teams that use 16, 17 guys, and that means there's spaces on rosters. So there is a chance, like if you there's a better chance these days that if you make an impact, you're going to stay longer. But there's also, this is the NBA, and it's a guarantee that of those 4 guys that drafted, in 5 years, only 1 or 2 are still going to be in the NBA. That's the way it is. It's a tough place to be for a long period of time. And people don't really think about that. But yes, NBA rosters recycle like crazy. Now, there's a better chance of staying longer, and I think some of these guys will. But, you know, we also got to think of some of the names we were talking about 3 years ago. And Rashad Vaughan. Rashad Vaughan didn't last at all. Nate Walters. Nope. He was like the big pick in their early 30s. He was in the NBA like for maybe even 2 years. You know, that happens too. And it's okay. It's all right. It's the NBA. It's very, very tough to be in the NBA for a long period of time. So, but the good thing is today's NBA, there's a better chance that they use so many more players that you have a better chance.
Yeah,
but
they actually have a minor league. You know, they have a minor league.
They have a minor league.
Yeah, you can count all the stories of guys who have come out of, I mean, so many different stories from the second round to coming through up to the G League, or coming after playing internationally. There are just so many instances of guys coming from all over. And I think you're right, RJ, like I mean, it's the most competitive league in basketball. So there's a lot of opportunities to find your exit, which makes it makes it all the more interesting to see guys who have these journeys that wind around and then bring them back to Minnesota to play point guard. Maybe catch at least 15, 20 minutes a game. I'm thinking.
What are you referring to?
It's going to be more than
10,
that.
12 assists.
24,
10, 12,
26.
24. Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, you know, slide Russell over to the 2, really let Ricky facilitate, because you know we got to talk about Ricky Rubio for.
I was thinking about that, right? Wouldn't that be? I mean, great to have him slide over,
play the 2, right?
And put, because Anthony Edwards, I mean, he's big enough to play the 3. If he
goes around, baby, like Jeff Teague. I think you can chalk up a good W to this guy. Because Ricky Rubio was better than Jeff Teague.
Yes,
I'm putting one on the board for that.
Although Jeff Teague, that team did make the playoffs without Rubio, like I said. You got to. I was right about that, Rob. Rob, wasn't I right?
That was barely a playoff.
It was barely. Yeah, they had a play-in game.
If they kept, I'm sorry, if they kept Butler, they would have continued to make the playoffs.
Yeah, agree, totally agree.
But whatever, that was a mess. That was a mess. But here's the beauty of what I see from this Timberwolves team. Now, are they going to make a trade? They do have like 3 good backup power forwards, and you got Okogie, Culver, and Edwards, none of which can shoot a jumper. So like you package one of those guys.
Edwards can get hot. Edwards,
but he still shot 28% from the 3-point line.
Yeah, he took a lot of bad shots, though. He took a lot of
exactly. So it's the NBA. Like I'm not trusting him to shoot threes at all, not right away. So between Edwards, Culver, and Okogie, you cannot have all those guys not shooting the ball. I say you package either Culver and Okogie and one of those power forwards, and you find the best you can power forward wise. But hey, let's let them do that. The beauty of what we were talking about, you could start Russell, Beasley, and Anthony Edwards, and then you got a next 3 sliding in of Rubio, Culver, and Okogie. I love that. I love that that's your second group. And the first guy out of Edwards, Beasley, and Russell that sits down, Ricky comes on the floor. And he stays on the floor until all 3 of those starters are back. And so you got Ricky probably coming in the game at the 6-minute mark, and he's getting shots for Karl-Anthony Towns. He's making life easier for Anthony Edwards. He's making life easier for D'Angelo Russell. That's the most important thing. And I talked about this till I was blue in the face for years. Ricky Rubio makes life easier for those young offensive players. When they're struggling, they haven't had a guy to get them easy shots. Now Ricky's back. Karl-Anthony Towns can get a free dunk. He can get a free 4-footer. Anthony Edwards can get a free dunk. Like those things can now happen because Ricky's going to look for that. We don't have Jeff Teague, trying to set a dribble record in a 24-second shot clock, jacking up crap. Now you have a point guard who actually wants to make his teammates better and give them in open positions. It's awesome. I'm so excited. It's great. And he's only 30. Ricky's not 49 years old. Ricky's 30 years old. Good.
Yeah, that's kind of wild, right? Like he's still, I mean, he's not old, but he's not young, but he's not old.
He came in the league. Well, he drafted when he was like 13 years old. He looked like he was in middle school when they drafted him.
Like he plays some defense too. I mean, we're going to have to like bang.
Well, let's not get carried away about Ricky's defense. Don't let me get back on that. But dude, no, I want to see.
He tries. That's like in the NBA. That's like a big deal.
I would like to see Rubio on the same court with Edwards as much as possible. Like Towns is at a point now where he can get his, he'll get his points, but I want to see him on the court with Edwards as much as possible. Maybe even in the same backcourt, and have, when Russell needs some time out. But like I just feel like Edwards is going to have to play a lot of 2 as well. And that's why starting those 3 guards together, Rubio, Russell, and Edwards, you're not going to see Edwards at the 2 very much, but I like to see him at the 2. And like you said, RJ, getting him some good shots and allow him to figure out like where he fits in the NBA as a scorer, because once he does, I'm telling you, like I think he's got way more potential than even Russell does as a scorer. And Russell's been, he's averaged 20-something points a game, a couple years.
But you didn't pay Beasley $15 million to be the 6th man. He's starting. I'm guessing Ricky will come off the bench. And
well, yeah, at first for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But you need a power forward. Like
he did it.
Okay, yeah,
there it is.
Anyway, they got 3 power forwards. Vanderbilt, like him. Horatio Gomez, like him. And who's the other one? Oh, Jake Layman. He can actually shoot. I like all those guys. But do you trust any of them as your starting power forward right now?
That was my way of doing the force. I like force muted you, RJ.
I'm going to send a Mandalorian after you. I love that dude, by the way. That's the greatest show.
I don't know, man. This season 2 is not as as engaging as the first season.
I think it's better. That whole the thing with the
first
giant
couple
worm was
episodes.
great.
That first couple episodes. Too many monsters, man. I want to see storyline.
All right. Okay.
Well, the Gophers, are they going to play? Because they were just on pause for COVID for a while, but they're healthy now. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been this excited about the Gophers in a long time as far as their entire roster and, you know, especially the incoming players. You know, I think that the schedule early on, you know, a non-conference is not going to test them very much. But oh my gosh, you know,
I
in
think
the Big Ten schedule, I don't. It scares me, man. Just looking at it. I don't like looking at it for too long. You know, I got
Marcus,
don't have nightmares.
what is the? Yeah, no, but you're scared of zippers, so whatever. So anywho, like, what is the number one thing the Gophers need in terms of like, what's the number one concern of their team coming in? You tell me right now.
The number one concern,
yeah,
to me is, I think, depth at key positions. You know, we talk about we talk about the talent on this team, and I do believe that this is his most talented team from top to bottom. But you know, point guard position and then the center position, those two positions, if you know Marcus Carr or Liam Robbins, you know, has foul trouble, you know, not playing well, or you know, I mean, God forbid, you know, they get hurt. It drops off to we're talking about a freshman and then possibly an Eric Curry who we really hope, you know, shows us the Eric Curry that he was earlier in his career before a couple injuries, but I don't think that they can rely on him too much, you know, right away. So we're talking about sophomores and freshmen. So those two positions you need to win. You know, they need to be healthy. They need to play at a high level. You know, Marcus Carr and Liam Robbins, if they are two of the best players in the Big Ten, you know, I think that they have a chance to go. I mean, as far as they want to go.
But you don't get that. Like they have talent, but the reason they're not ranked really high is for one reason, because there's so many new guys, and they have to form. What is that thing you take in ninth grade science? What is that class called? Somebody give it to me.
English.
No,
biology.
Not in
English.
Chemistry.
Oh, chemistry.
Chemistry. Like you have your 5 starters all started last year too, but on 4 different teams. That is why they have to form that chemistry. We've had good teams here who never formed chemistry that bombed out. 2002, 2003, that is number one example. Example number 2, 2005, 2006. I'll remind you of those teams real quick. That was the 2005-2006 year was Vince Greer's senior. It was his senior year. Mo Hargrove came back. Adam Boone came back. Terrible chemistry. 2002, 2003, they were supposed to be so good because they had Mike Bauer as a junior and Rick Ricker as a sophomore, Jerry Holman as a senior, and they were terrible. Their chemistry was awful. So you need chemistry. And that is why you talked about, like about 4 minutes ago, you talked about their schedule. I love having this mid and low major schedule because they have to form a chemistry. They have to form a chemistry. That needs to be there, and it's better to do that against some of these teams than it is, you know, coming out of the gate and swinging heavy. Also, what did not happen last year? The young bench players never got a chance to play in November and December to start gaining some confidence. Isaiah Enan is the number one guy I'm thinking of in this way. Against some of these teams, assuming they overwhelm them in the second half, you can then put that second group on the floor and start to play. Jamal Mashburn can get comfortable. Trey Williams can get some shots up. Isaiah Enan can get some shots up. Eric Curry can get some run. You know, like these things are important. You need that chemistry to form, to kick Green Bay's ass, just, you know, to start things. And then you need to get the bench guys in there. I like these old school cupcake games. You need some. You don't need 13 of them, okay? Like we've seen that in the past. But you need 5 or 6, and they're going to have those 5 or 6. I love the way the schedule stays out for this team because there's so many new guys, right?
Yeah, I think that the obviously the new guys thing is why a lot of teams or a lot of experts don't pick them very high. You know, they just don't know them. I mean, you can look at the highlights and look at Liam Robbins, you know, at Drake, or you can look at Booth at Utah, you know, Brandon Johnson. It's a little tougher to find some Western Michigan tape, but you know, and then Jamal Mashburn. I mean, he played at one of the best, you know, prep schools, but it's not like they were on ESPN, you know, like some of these schools that we see now. And so I feel like there's a lot of unknowns about the newcomers. There's a lot of talent there. What gives me, I think I look at the guys returning. What gives me hope is that, you see the chemistry that Gabe and Marcus have, or need to build, from last year, and hopefully did. I think Gabe is a leader. I think Marcus is a leader in his own way. I think, the fact that Eric Curry can play, this year, and he's healthy for the first game. I think that's leadership is going to really do great for their chemistry. Eric brings everybody together. I mean, what he went through last year, he was obviously looking forward to playing with Daniel Turu. They had a great relationship, and he mentored Daniel. A lot of credit goes to Eric for the development of Turu. This year they're going to need that from Eric. Liam hasn't played in the Big Ten. The sophomore Sam Freeman didn't play much last year.
Brandon Johnson hasn't played.
Brandon Johnson didn't play in the Big Ten. So Eric Curry's leadership will help a lot with this team. And then, I think what's the identity, RJ? It always goes back to that. I think we've both talked about two keys going into the season. Me for point guards and center depth, and then for you, chemistry. But I think one of the most important things in all this is identity. And, you can have good leaders. You can have, some guys, maybe point guard or center that comes up and off the bench and helps them. And they might have great chemistry. They might like each other quite a bit. But if you don't have an identity from game to game, you don't know what you do well, and you kind of rely on some couple guys to have 20 points or whatever. And if they don't play well, you need an identity. And if they find that, I think they can win when they're not playing well, some of the best guys. And I think they can, obviously, when they're playing well, they can probably beat some of the best teams in the conference.
Chemistry forms identity. If you have that chemistry, you form your identity. If this team can form a chemistry on both ends, what will happen, in my opinion, is that they will overwhelm teams defensively, force long misses that they can turn and fly the other way and score, force turnovers that they can fly the other way and score. If they can be that defensive team that forces mistakes and get up the floor quick, like they have been at times in the past when they were good, that's where you don't have to get in as many positions of half-court basketball where Marcus Carr is taking, it has the ball in his hands a little too much. You want to get out and get easy baskets. I think this team has the talent to make teams defensively break down teams and then get up the floor with Marcus Carr or Booth Gotch or Jamal Mashburn flying the other way. Gabe Kalsher, feet set, shoot. Isaiah Enan, feet set, shoot. Marcus Carr, feet set, shoot. Like, I think this team has that type of identity. And what you want from this team is, like, what they had at times last year was defensive situations in late in games where they were tired, where they broke down, where this year we don't want to get as many of those positions. You have a deeper bench, you have a better rotation, you got guys that are more fresh at the end of games. And Marcus Carr is really good. He's the best point guard in the Big Ten. He is, in my opinion, deserving of first team preseason All Big Ten.
We're not going to have the point guard conversation, are we?
No, he just needs to move the ball.
He might be a lottery pick next year.
I'm not saying that.
He's the point guard.
Not saying that at all.
He's the first team All-American point guard for Illinois.
But you know how it is, man. You could be a first team All Big Ten player and not play a lick in the NBA.
No, I love Marcus. I love Marcus, but he, I think that, obviously I think the best preseason, the best going in is Ayo Dosunmu for Illinois. I think Marcus.
He's not a point guard though. He's a shooting guard. You don't call a guy a point guard if he doesn't bring the ball up the floor.
I don't agree with that. LeBron brings the ball up the court. Sometimes Giannis brings the ball up the court. They're not point guards.
If you don't guard the other team's point guard and you don't bring the ball up the floor as the point guard, you're not the point guard. Your coach calls you the 2 or the 3 in practice. The 1 is the point guard. And Ayo is, by the way, I think, here's my prediction. I think Dosunmu is winning the Big Ten Player of the Year this year. Put that down. Now,
he probably will.
He is not a point guard, though.
He is.
No, he's not. Trent Frazier is the point guard. He brings the ball up the floor every time.
So to me, you brought up a good point. Who do you guard on defense? But also, most important thing is, who has the ball in his hands the most often, and I think
That's not the
Ayo
point guard,
DeSoto.
though.
It's Ayo
Carl
DeSoto.
Anthony
He's the
Towns
one.
is not the Wolves
He's the
point guard,
one
but he has
that
the ball in his hands the most.
he's the one that will make plays for other people, and he will make plays for himself, and that's Marcus Carr, and that's Ayo DeSoto.
And it's Carl Anthony Towns. He has the ball in his hands most for the Wolves. He's not the point guard.
No, he won't. He won't when
Kawhi Leonard
D'Angelo's
is
in
not
there.
the point guard. Like, the point guard's the guy that dribbles the ball and then goes and guards and then brings the ball to the floor, and then he guards the other team's one. That is not Ayo. That is not him.
I disagree. When D'Angelo's in the game, when Russell's in the game, Towns won't have the ball in his hands more than Russell will.
Well, we saw it for 12 minutes last year. I can't give you that thought process yet.
I like the qualification of guarding the other team's point guard, but I also would say that I would try to define a point guard as the player offensively who initiates the offense, the player who activates the offense, not necessarily by how long he's got the ball.
The primary ball handler to me. Primary ball handler.
And I think that's a fair qualification as well. Are you guys prepared to make predictions on this Gopher season?
Of course.
Well,
yeah.
Let's the elephant in the room, Rob. How many games will they actually play?
Right.
So if you look at what's going on in football, and I'm writing about this for Sunday, it's not a good sign. If you look at what's happening in the state of Minnesota right now with the shutdowns that are going on with high school and youth level sports, it's not a good sign. If you look at what's going on with the Gophers and football team, missing 20 guys and they still won versus Purdue. We're not going to go there.
Injuries.
But
Braylon Oliver was counted in that list, and he's been hurt since March.
Yeah. But the problem with basketball is, they don't have 100 guys. So, and they have different rules and guidelines with basketball. Football, you're out 21 days. Basketball, they recommend that you have a week quarantine for that individual player, but you don't necessarily have to quarantine your whole team. It's up to the public officials, that help you make those decisions. And so I think basketball is going to go as far as maybe Christmas, and I think they're going to have a lot of problems. The NCAA right now obviously moved their NCAA tournament to Indianapolis for the entire tournament. It's frustrating for guys like myself, and I know others that try to travel and cover these games. I don't know how many media they're going to allow in Indianapolis to cover the entire tournament and the Final Four. But I think it was a good decision because they're going to try to make a bubble there, protect all the athletes, and make sure that they can get their cash cow, which is the NCAA tournament. But what does that mean for the rest of the season? Patino made a good point recently where he says, guys, we're not going to be able to do a bubble. I know everybody's saying the NBA had the answer, the NHL had the answer, but we can't do a bubble during the regular season.
And they're not going to do it. They're not doing that. The NBA won't be doing a bubble here either. They're starting in December 22nd. There's no bubble there either.
Right, but it
was a short-term fix to get the season over. Right,
but they're not professional athletes. They're college athletes. I think not having the students on campus, especially during the break, whether they ever come back, helps. But it's what are these athletes doing when they're not with the team, when they're not at the facility? There's a reason why all these guys are testing positive. It isn't just because they're all bunched together and they're practicing and one gets it and everybody gets it. Right. Because contact tracing, they're really trying to limit that. I think it's what they do on their own time, and they're not going to just stay in their, hotel room or dorm room or wherever they are and do nothing.
You guys all remember how invincible you thought you were at that age? I just told you I was a moron riding four-wheelers all over northern Minnesota when I was pretty much that age. A little bit older, but, mentally I was younger than they are now then.
Yeah.
But, yes.
So predictions. Let's predict how many games they're actually going to play. I think what the minimum to make the NCAA tournament is 13. I've heard they're trying to reduce that.
Are they really? Wow.
Have a little more faith. Come on, it's going to be a little bit more.
So 27 games regular season, 20 games in the Big Ten. I predict that they'll at least get to 13 games. I don't want to predict how many wins because I don't know how many games they're going to play. But, where are they going to finish in the Big Ten? That's what I'm interested in hearing from you, RJ, and even you, Rob. I think that they have the talent. I'd like to see them play first to make a bold prediction.
That would
but I think they have the talent to finish in the top half. Okay. But I think if you look at this Big Ten, this is the most talented, the Big Ten, at least preseason. I don't know what they're going to look like until they play, but preseason wise, this is the most talented that I've seen the Big Ten in a long time. They have 3 top 10 teams off the bat. When you have top 10 teams, that means they can make a Final Four, win a national championship. You have 7 teams that were ranked in the coaches poll, which I agree more with the coaches poll than the AP, which is the media. But, at least preseason, I believe in what the coaches are saying, as opposed to us who just basically go off of last year. So 7 teams ranked. So where does that leave the Gophers? I think that they're right in that mix right after those 7,
That's where I had him was 8th. I had him when I sent my stuff into, what Marcus, we have, me and you, we have a couple things we send our predictions in each year. And I believe I had him at 8th. I believe they can be 8th. And because I think they have a little bit more talented starting 5 than other teams. And I believe they're a little bit deeper than other teams. But I've done a lot of previewing of Big Ten basketball the last 2 months, just position by position, the ages, whatever. I did a lot, and it was a lot of fun. But it really opens your eyes to Big Ten basketball during the winter. I watch other games sometimes, but never it's rare that you have this must-see matchup when Wisconsin plays Iowa, when Iowa plays Michigan State, when Michigan State plays Illinois, when Illinois plays Wisconsin. Those are must-see games. Those are top of the line college basketball games this year because all those teams are so talented. Now Michigan State is kind of everybody's 4th, but I don't see that at all. I think they're right in the mix with everybody else because there's some guys on that team who I think people are kind of forgetting about. Aaron Henry, I think, is going to have a hell of a year. Rocket Watts, I think Izzo's going to put him in position to have a fantastic season. It gets to be a great Big Ten year. So you said predictions. I am not on that low 13 end. They have 27 games scheduled. I think they're going to play all their non-conference games in the next 3-4 weeks. Yep. Don't look at me like you have some crazy knowledge inside. You don't rain on my parade. Come on, get your hands down and just listen to me. My God. Now, I think they're going to play at least 6 other. Now, you already lost a game because you had made that face. So I got six non-conference games, and I'm going to go with 14 conference games for a 20-game season. I'm going to give you 20 games, and out of that, I'm going to give you a. Let's go. It's kind of tough to because I don't know what games to pull from. If I was pulling from Penn State and Nebraska, I'd go lower. If I was pulling from the top teams, I'd go higher. So I'm just going to give you 7 and 7. We're going to go 12. We're going to go 13 and 7 on a 20-game schedule. That's what I'm going. Bam.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not gonna predict number of wins based on the schedule. I don't know how many games they're going to play. I do think though that. Okay, we're saying there's 7 ranked teams preseason. Okay, 8th is safe. I didn't pick them 8th. I picked them actually 7th. So to me, I think that one of those bottom teams that were ranked right now, I don't think they're as good as we think they are.
Which one are you thinking about?
To me, Ohio State. I don't see them as good as Minnesota because there's 2 things that I see Minnesota have that no one else has. Number one is, like you said, the best point guard in the Big Ten. Yes. Well, I'm just talking about one of the best point guards in the Big Ten, okay? Ohio State does not have that. There's a lot of teams.
C.J. Walker's pretty good.
Yes, but he's not Marcus Carr. And so I think that, Minnesota has the advantage over a lot of teams because of Marcus Carr, okay? Another thing that Minnesota has is returning players, which, I give Gabe Kalsher some credit. Obviously Jarvis Mercer is going to have to come a long way to help them consistently. But I like the fact that Booth Gotch played high major basketball. Okay. That Kentucky game where Utah beat Kentucky. He was the best player on the floor in that first half. Everybody was saying, who's this Booth Gotch? I think he had their first 13 points and they were beating Kentucky by almost 10.
Oh, there's an easy answer.
He had 7 of those 10 points. I mean, he's talented.
Yeah, he did. So. See, there's an easy answer why Booth came up big in the big game. Because people from Austin, Minnesota come up big in big spots because we are trained from the moment we woke up to be tough as nails. Booth Gotch is an Austin Packer.
Who else is from Austin? Who else is from Austin that you know?
John Madden.
No,
all your cans of spam.
I don't think anybody knows that you're from Austin, RJ, at all.
I If anybody's paid attention to anything I've said in the last 17 years, that's probably the number one thing they remember me saying. Go
yeah,
Pack,
so
go. The real Go Pack Go.
There you go. I like the fact that, like I said, they have their backcourt is very underrated. You know, you have two guys. I went back and looked. Okay, so if you talk about Marcus Carr and Gabe Kalsher, they're both coming back as double-figure scorers in the backcourt. There's only three other teams, I believe, that have that: Rutgers, Iowa, and Michigan. Okay, and where's Iowa? Where's Iowa ranked? Iowa's arguably the number one team in the Big Ten. You know, Wisconsin and Illinois will argue with that. Okay, Rutgers was a surprise team last year. This year, they're going to take nobody by surprise. They're picked
They'll still
by
be
some
very
people.
good.
They're picked. They're a preseason top 25 team, and they're picked by some people to possibly, make it run at the Big Ten title. And then you have Michigan, who I believe that Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner's brother, might be the best NBA prospect in the Big Ten. So, Minnesota's right behind them as far as, double-figure scores coming back in the backcourt. You add a guy like Booth Gotch, who has high major experience, who I think it benefits him from not having to be the main guy right away because, like you said, he can take time to build chemistry with Gabe and Marcus. And then off the bench, you have a Jamal Mashburn, Trey Williams. I think we haven't talked about him yet. His body looks great. He's always a great athlete, but I think confidence offensively will come when Pitino leaves him in there more and lets him play through some mistakes. I really liked his defensive ability coming out of high school, but I think offensively, if he can help them, that'll be huge off the bench. So I think their backcourt is something that will help them if they are to make a push in that upper half to get past like the 8th, 7th spot where we have them right now. I think their backcourt is going to be the one to get them there. And like you said, chemistry, that'll come because Gabe and Marcus are two captains this year. So you have two captains in your backcourt, so they'll help with the chemistry. But the identity of this team is going to come from the backcourt. Last year, what happened was last year, Pitino thought that his backcourt was going to be the strength, right? But the chemistry wasn't there. Marcus Carr playing for the first time with the Gophers, Peyton Willis playing for the first time with the Gophers, Gabe Kalsher really with the success he had in the NCAA tournament, everybody expected him to make this huge jump, but Marcus Carr had the ball in his hands all the time. So they didn't really mesh very well at first. And then all of a sudden, Daniel Tour was their best player. And I remember they played Utah and they lost that game. And I asked Pitino after the game, I said, Daniel's is on a tear here. And so are you going to start playing through him? And then Pitino said, yeah, we're going to have to use him like our Ethan Happ, the former Wisconsin All-American. But he didn't really decide that and figure that out until they had lost 3 or 4 games. What was their identity last year? They tried to get Daniel the ball, and then it was through Marcus Carr. This year, I think their identity is going to be in the backcourt, playing an up-tempo style, like you said, pushing it, trying to get the ball to their scorers on the perimeter. Booth can shoot, Gabe can shoot. Marcus Carr will pull up for some shots, but he'll take it to the basket. I think their identity is the backcourt, and then they can obviously have a guy like Liam that if the team wants to try to get out and guard those guys, they can throw it in to Liam, and so I like the identity.
Your identity comes from chemistry, like we said before, and as long as they form that chemistry, they have a chance to have a great year. A couple of things I want to rebuttal what you said, though. One, the best NBA prospects in the Big Ten this year, I think, the one that is being talked about by NBA people is actually Aaron Wiggins from Maryland. And I think Aaron Wiggins is going to have a monster season. Also, Aaron Wiggins, who is this? The guy plays D, and he's got the most physical ability. Trace Jackson Davis is probably the guy I think is going to have the best year. It pushed his name up there the most in the NBA. But like you talked about the best backcourts, double figures. Okay, yes. But that takes out – that's the only reason Trent Frazier's not on that list is because he averaged 9.8 points a game. Okay, you got Trent Frazier, Ayo, and Adam Miller. I forget the name offhand. He's a freshman standout. Illinois got a great backcourt. Wisconsin brings back both Brad and Dimitri Trice. They're both very good basketball players. Wisconsin has a good backcourt as well. And Rutgers does as well. Because Wiggins, Daryl Morrison, and another guy whose name I'm forgetting. Dude, there's a lot of talent. Big Ten is very, very good. Also, before we go, Rob, I have a question. You got to celebrate a Lakers championship. How did that feel? And did you get a new tattoo?
I did not get a new tattoo. That's a great question, though. I have been celebrating by getting lots of Laker memorabilia. For instance,
I'm ready to see. What is this?
this is just a old school signed Magic Johnson photograph.
How much
So
you want for that?
a, a pound of flesh.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
It was amazing. It was amazing. I definitely couldn't have been more thrilled with the way they ran through teams in the bubble. It was really exciting to just have the bubble, but more than anything, just to have basketball back for
I
that.
love it. I
Man,
didn't miss many games at all. But you know what was interesting? Like there were some series that just grabbed my attention. The NBA Finals didn't grab my attention. It was such an obvious thing. I was like, let me know when we get to Game 4. I'll watch that. But yes, it was. It was. I was happy for you. It was, and you know, and I kind of have this part of me that like I love when new teams make runs and new teams, new team people can get behind new players and new teams, but it's also keeps the NBA real fresh when one of the powers grabs a championship. Now I don't want the Lakers to win again. Matter of fact, I'd rather them go. I'd like to see them go on a 15-year hiatus.
boo.
Even though of winning, although
Well, that ain't
they're
happening.
even going to be better this year than they were last year.
It was
But
great to see all the surprise teams that came out
Yes.
of the bubble. Like seeing Phoenix run the table in there. You know what I mean? Like that was awesome. Seeing Milwaukee get beat, seeing the Clippers get beat, like seeing those teams that just.
How about the guys that became stars? And Jamal Murray. How fun was it to track Jamal Murray? How fun was it to watch the Trailblazers make
Tyler
their
Herro.
What's that?
Tyler Herro, man. I mean,
Mhm.
I was doubting that kid for quite a bit, you know, when he went to Kentucky and didn't go to Wisconsin. You know, I know Badgers fans were like, you know,
Oh, okay, yeah.
dissing him, but I think, you know, it was a bold move. You know, like Kentucky eats a lot of guys up, even 5-star players. You know, McDonald's All-Americans, and he, you know,
Now,
Calipari said he had a lot of guts, and he carried that confidence and swagger into the NBA. And you know, I think he should have he should have been on the All-Rookie first team.
I totally
his-
disagree. Totally disagree.
But-
If you look at his consistency, it wasn't there. Even in the NBA playoffs, it wasn't there. He had some big moments, but he also had some games where you barely even noticed he was there, and they didn't play him in those games. Like, I agree with you. It was fun to watch him, but Tyler Herro still has steps to take toward consistency. But Luka
they all
Doncic,
do. They all do.
how fun was Luka Doncic during that? How fun was what's the dude's name? Donovan Mitchell. Dude, Donovan Mitchell had me turning in every night. There was that NBA bubble was so fun, and there were so many guys. Jamal Murray, I think, ranks with number one though. Jamal Murray is kind of the guy that came out of that thing as a guy people somewhat know. Now he's a star. You know,
Well,
Luka.
Jimmy Butler and Jamal Murray were the two that obviously hurt the most watching play that well, because they could have been. One was, but I think Jamal Murray, that pick there. I mean, it's not obviously Steph Curry like draft, but come on now, Chris Dunn. I mean,
Dude, we ragged on that from day one. What a horrible pick.
Yeah, to me, it's just shooting. You know, like for Curry, the Curry draft and this one, you know, like you got to go with the best shooter. You know, that's what this team has needed. You know, you talk about defense all you want, and Tibbs was all about defense, and he still is with the Knicks. But then he picks Obi Toppin. You know, that was strange. But you know,
David Kahn, Tom Thibodeau, who wrecked the Wolves more?
Oh, it's not even close.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
It's always Kahn. It's always.
It is Kahn, but dude, Thibodeau like just absolutely blew it up and ran away. I mean, he was Iron Man exploding that cave and then walking away from all of us. And he's gonna blow up. Dude, the Knicks ain't got no chance to get rid of that guy anyway.
Hey, before we go,
Brett Bielema of NBA.
Before we go, I wanna see that Black Panther in the background.
Oh, wrong way.
Side. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, little Iron Man.
We lost a great one.
Oh, I know. Oh, I forgot about that.
Cedric Boseman.
Terrible.
Yeah,
I heard they're
he's an actor.
I heard they're gonna make
Chadwick Boseman. You know, shout out to him. My son was one of his heroes, and he's gonna go on, living through all the young kids out there. I wore a Black Panther for Halloween. My son, he wore an inflatable dinosaur costume, but but I used this Black Panther. He didn't want to. He don't wear the same costume 2 years in a row, so I wore Black Panther for Halloween. Actually, it scared the mess out of a lot of kids. 'Cause I had my hood. It was cold, so I had my hood over my head, and they didn't know what I was, some kind of demon or something. I said I went like this, and they knew what it was. So
I wonder who's gonna play. Black Panther's got another movie coming up. I wonder who they're gonna have play Black Panther.
They need to go with his sister.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. It's sure he's going to be
with his sister.
That's what they did in the comic, I guess.
Yeah, they'll have a female version of that.
What about the thought of Michael B. Jordan coming back and doing it?
I mean, he's dead. They killed him.
Well, no, did they show his body?
They kill everybody. They all come back.
Hey, the Infinity Gauntlet, man. They brought everybody back. So
I don't know.
It's good seeing you
Would
guys.
you rather have Shuri or Michael B. Jordan?
We need to have a whole episode talking about Marvel.
The beauty of the Black Panther is the Black Panther hasn't been through time just one person. It's passed down. So who are they going to pass it to? Is it Shuri? I don't know. It'll be fun to see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Good seeing you guys, man.
Likewise. Yeah,
sure.
I'm looking forward to the next opportunity for us to hang out and talk about basketball or anything else.
Yes.
Once the NBA starts again, baby.
Dude, the NBA, how fun
Christmas
is it?
Day.
The Wolves are going to be fun. I don't know if they're going to be great. If they stay healthy, they could be a playoff team. But to me, like they just got to figure out this power forward spot, and then we're all very encouraged. The depth, well, they probably need some shooting too.
Yeah, they got a few things to work out.
Well, you got the mic, Rob. You got the mic, baby.
All right. Well, for Marcus Fuller and Ryan James, I'm Hardwood Rob. Thanks for joining us on this very special One and Done show.
Happy Thanksgiving!